who hasn't read it should read Brave New World, because that was Aldous Huxley's vision of the future, and in many respects he had things right with all the social conditioning, same with George Orwell. But what Aldous Huxley failed to recognise back in 1931 was that helicopters need fuel. So he has helicopters flying around everywhere, swarms of them, and they never run out of fuel, and they never produce planetary destroying pollution. And of course the reality is that we're totally dependent on energy, and without energy nothing happens. And without food energy, people die. And that's the reality which people are turning away from. They just don't want to deal with it, and people say, well, it's too hard. So of course the longer we wait to deal with it, the harder it gets. So the higher we fly, the further we're going to fall when the crash comes. So anybody who has survived to the year 2030 will be looking back and saying, oh my God, you mean you actually burnt oil? You actually used oil to go to the cinema? You used oil for trivia? They will be appalled by the squandering of precious resources that have taken place over the last 20 or 30 years. They will be utterly staggered. And as one person said to me, anybody born after the year 2000 will think of people that were born before the year 2000 with contempt. On the whole, I hope they don't think the same for me, because I'm doing my best to fight the system. And I'm not the only person. There are other heroes, who are fighting this. But the bulk of the population, I'm afraid, don't know, don't care, don't want to know, don't want to care. And this is dismal. And I really don't know what I have to do to bring about the culture change. So if maybe I'll come up with some idea in the next few months that might actually get some change. I really don't know. But the political and economic system is all about keeping things as they are. We don't want change, we want to keep things as they are, and people have got totally unrealistic expectations of what the planet can deliver. Way beyond the planet's capacity to deliver, and way beyond the planet's capacity to absorb the pollution. So, very, very interesting times. Because they always all very well saying all these problems, etc., but what are the solutions? And I think, well, it's very obvious what the solution is. Turn off the globalised consumer society. We don't have to have all this junk coming from China. It's totally unnecessary. We don't have to ship wine from New Zealand to Chile so that we can get enough money so that we can buy wine in Chile and ship it from Chile back to New Zealand. I mean, this is just insane, but this is how the system works. Just total insanity. And the answer, of course, is power down. Not the tinkering of the system, 5% cuts in emissions or 10% cuts till 20. We are talking about 90% cuts in emissions in the next 5 years, 100% cuts in emissions in the next 10. And if we do that, maybe we can prevent climate catastrophe. I don't know. But that's the only way that we will. If we carry on as we are, there's absolutely nothing more certain than that we will get climate catastrophe. Of course, you see our political leaders find this unacceptable, and people in society say, oh no, I need my car, I have to have my car, I've got to go for an overseas holiday. So until such attitudes change, we're headed straight off the cliff. Well, at the bottom of the cliff, of course, is perhaps 5 billion people starving to death worldwide. Rapid decline in energy availability, inundation of large areas of farmland, houses, cities like New Orleans would be the first to go under, but then it would be London, New York, Shanghai, Napier, of course, and Christchurch on the local scene. Half of Christchurch will be gone, most of Napier will be gone, possibly Hastings, just depends how far we go into the future as this meltdown of the Arctic region progresses. And we get moved towards this 7-metre sea level rise, which is projected for Greenland, and then of course, if we just allow this thing to carry on and we've got no way of stopping it, then the Antarctic ice sheet starts going, and we've got the potential for 60-metre rise in sea level there. But I'm not viewing that as something that's going to happen within the next few decades. But certainly Greenland going, there's almost no question that this is going to happen. And it's quite amusing when we see these projections for economic growth based on fuel, which we don't have, and population growth when we've got no food to feed these people. It's rear vision mirror driving. We're going along saying, right, well, we'll look in our rear vision mirror and we'll drive the car according to where we have been. And this is what most people are doing. Governments, district councils, businesses. We grew last year by 3%, therefore we'll try to grow next year by 3.5%. Total insanity. The problem for the people of the future is that most of the resources will have been squandered, and they are going to try to, I don't know whether they're going to salvage anything from the mess. I really can't say. I mean, this is all conjecture. Some people would say, look, we're headed back to the Stone Age. Others would say total annihilation of the human species altogether. I can't tell you. But I can tell you that Sir David King, in 2004, said that unless we deal with global warming, Antarctica will literally be the only inhabitable landmass. So whether we, at the end of this century we might have 1 million people living in Antarctica, who can say? It's all conjectural, but I think we can be pretty certain that there will be no tigers or orangutans or mountain gorillas or polar bears, and possibly not even penguins, from what I've been reading and seeing. It's just quite shocking. Totally the fault of the economic and political system which dominates most Western societies and a lot of others. This obsession with having things that you don't need. This obsession with going to places that you don't need to go to. And this is the great confusion, of course, between wants and needs. You need water, fresh water that you can drink. You need good food. You need protection from extreme heat or cold. And it was very nice to have some sort of cohesive community that you can live in. And pretty well everything else that we're told we need, we don't need at all. I don't actually need the clothes that I'm wearing. It's a question of, social norms, but I could actually be standing here naked and I would come to no harm. I don't actually need these clothes, but if the temperature were to drop by 10 or 20 degrees, I think then I would very much appreciate having them. But I certainly do not need something like that vehicle to transport me around to get the shopping. It's just total insanity. But you see, people have been conditioned to think this is normal. And what's really fascinating is if you look at the Hubbard blip curve from 5,000 years ago to 5,000 years into the future, and we go along and there's no oil consumption, and then we get ping, and we've got this huge oil consumption, and it lasts for about 150, 200 years, and that's it, and it's all gone. And people think that what's happening now is normal, and it doesn't matter how many times I say it, this is not normal. People just don't get it. We've lived on this planet as humans of some kind for 100,000 years, and for 99,000